Good evening, everyone. Kindly follow the rules of this session. You have to keep your microphones mute, turn off your camera, so focus on, and you are requested to put your questions in the chat. We will be addressing your questions at the end of the session. And please be polite and professional while asking the questions. I, Manju Chiller, welcome you all to this weekly webinar series, Connect, Share and Learn. So as you know, that already interacted with so many top 50 finalists of the Global Teacher Award. Dave from USA, Scott from Canada, Carolina, Gustava, Lay, Michael. And today we have a very special guest with us, Lusine from Russia. She's an English teacher. I welcome you, ma'am, and I wholehearted thanks to you for giving us this precious time and connecting with us educators.
Thank you for having
dear
me.
Participants, yeah. And dear participants, let me brief you all the agenda of this session. There will be a 3 minutes for the introduction of the session, and after that, presentation by the guest speaker Lucy. 10 minutes are for the question and answer round. As I told you, you can put your questions in the chat window, and last 2 minutes is for the conclusion of the session. Connect, Share and Learn with Global Teacher is a weekly webinar where we are getting the opportunity to connect with the top 50 finalists of Global Teacher Award. Here I would like to welcome our special guest, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Rathore. He is an Education District Officer in Solapur District. I welcome you, sir. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Manju Chiller and I'm a computer teacher in Sun City School, Gurgaon, New Delhi. Our co-host, Ranjit sir, although Ranjit sir don't need any introduction, everyone knows about him, and he's a Master Skype educator and top 50 finalist of Global Teacher Award. Thank you so much, sir, for making our weekend so informative and knowledgeable. And our special guest speaker, Lusine, I welcome you once again, ma'am, and thank you so much for connecting with us. Lusine is a role model to her students, and she shows them reliability, responsibility, open-mindedness, and confidence. She is a certified educator and global ambassador of several international educator communities, Kindling Global Association board member. She has expertise of conferences and webinars. Her articles are already published in the magazine for teachers. She coordinated 3 student exchange projects in cooperation with Indian and Taiwan schools, during which the participant students visited their peer abroad and learned about their culture and traditions, as well as overcome language barriers. Co-creator of Community English Speaking Club, where our team helps education teachers, English teachers for their city improve speaking skills. So without waiting more, I request Lusine, kindly share your screen and start the session. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you so much once again. And I'm very excited about today's meeting, and greetings from Russia. And I hope that you, your families, and your students are doing well and you are safe. Thank you so much for joining us today during these hard times and transition to online learning. We are doing our best to keep our students engaged and provide them socially and emotionally environment. And also we try and we do our best to support our colleagues around the world, maybe provide them with additional resources and so on. And yeah, I'm switching to my presentation.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Lusine.
So I will not introduce myself because you kindly did it. Thank you. And my today's topic is learning English in authentic global environment. So when I came to school as a teacher, I faced a very big problem, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of teachers, English teachers around the world, are facing the same problem. What I found out is that my students were not motivated to learn English. Why? Because learning English has a lot of difficulties. And I started to find or to look for ways to motivate my students to learn English. And of course, I realized that it would not be just learning from textbooks, and I started to look for interesting activities, forms of lessons to motivate my students. And to start with motivating, I would like to mention some forms of lessons, and maybe some of you are using them too, but anyway, I would like to tell a bit about them before switching to our global collaboration. So I started involving my students in such forms of lessons like debate or role plays, which activate students' vocabulary, stimulate their imagination, and learners are in situations which are very similar to real-life situations. They also make students form thoughts and feelings by means of foreign language, activate everyday live vocabulary, grammatical structures, and so on. And on this slide, at the bottom of this slide, you can see my young learners, which are involved in role plays, and you can choose any topic according to the age of the students, such topics like at the shop, at the airport, or at the post office, where students can take roles of a shop assistant or a customer or airport official and a passenger or receptionist and tourist and so on. For my older students, I arranged debates and mini conferences. Talking about debates, I just divide my students, my class, into two big groups, and they take roles, they take opposite roles, and we often have such slogans like make your point or spread your voice and so on. Topics can be absolutely different, like advantages and disadvantages of TV, or pros and cons of computers and the internet, or life in the city and in the village or in the countryside, and so on. Another way to involve students and to make them get interested is project-based learning, and of course teamwork. Yeah. Talking about project-based learning, I would like to emphasize that it combines different methods and activities, starting from reading texts and reading comprehension exercises until STEM activities, STEM projects, and also presenting our works to our school community or city community or even to global community. And what is very important in teamwork is that every single student is engaged and has its own part of the work, and even students who are not very good at English have their small part of the work, and he feels or she feels responsibility for the teamwork, and it is also a big motivation to learn English. And talking about project-based learning, I would like to emphasize a global project-based learning. It is providing us motivation, real situations, communication, collaborative research, and so on. So, you know, when I try different forms and innovative forms of classes, I felt that it is not enough. And of course, I realized that I should provide real situations, real communication situations. And I started to look for ways to connect my students to the global community so that I can provide them authentic environment. And talking about global collaboration, we can't mention the 21st century skills, and I will click and open the other slide and to show you the list of some of the skills of the 21st century, like basic national values. Of course, we can't do without that. Civic engagement, communication, because you know that for success of a person, it is very, very important to have communication skills, to be communicative. Also, critical thinking, collaboration and teamwork, digital literacy, of course, how can we do without this skill? Setting goals and ability to solve the problems and to achieve the goals, creative thinking, and of course global competence. This term is directly connected with the word global, which means international. So talking about global projects which we are involved in, I would like to mention a Kidling Global Association, a Microsoft Education Community, British Council, National Geographic Lessons and Projects, and Penpal Schools global projects, and some more. Okay, talking about global project benefits, and what they provide to me and my students. Let's emphasize authentic environment, of course, wide range of school subjects involved in the research, and including cross-curriculum activities. By the way, we very often with my colleagues organize cross-curriculum activities, and they are also very, very effective and motivating. And competencies, linguistic, communicative, socio-cultural, compensatory, cognitive, and others. And skills, I already mentioned collaboration with peers and teachers, responsibility for cooperative work, ability to solve problem, creativity, and so on. Yes, for English teacher, it is not enough just pass subject skills to the students, especially in the 21st century when we have so big opportunities, so many opportunities and technologies which provide us communication and learning. Okay. Yes, among skills, abilities, and attitudes, I mentioned, of course, motivation, improving reading, writing, listening, speaking skills, building vocabulary. These are just hard skills, and also soft skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and of course what global communication provides us is that building global friendship, learning cultures, religions, countries, tolerance, understanding, and of course sharing knowledge across the continents. You know, when I found the ways to connect globally, and when I started my first projects, global projects, I faced another problem. I am talking about not readiness of my students to accept another cultures. You know, something seemed strange to my students, something seemed funny maybe, or you know, I heard some things which I wouldn't like to hear from my students. And the second thing that I realized, and the second challenge, and the second goal was to provide multicultural community at my lesson. So that my students can understand another cultures, and so that another cultures don't seem strange to my students. And you know, I started from very, very simple projects, like, for example, describe and draw Kidling project, when my students, along with students from other countries, exchange descriptions of their appearances and characters, and they make portraits according to descriptions, and that is how they saw that people can be different, people can have different skin color or shape of the eyes, or they can have different traditions, and maybe our traditions seem funny to others, but we shouldn't see them as funny, right? We just should learn to respect and to accept other cultures, and also to represent our cultures to another countries. Very soon I started my own global project on Kidling International. This is an association of volunteers, and we are just doing this job without any monetary reward. You see, this, we do it just realizing that we need it, and we needed this for our students and also for students around the world. Yes, talking about schools around the world Kidling project, which I have been coordinating for 4 years already. This is questions and answers exchange, first of all, and students ask questions on different topics like hobbies or preferences or school life, and of course global topics like protecting environment, gender equality, global warming, and so on. After these questions and answers exchange, we organize more activities like Skype sessions, like cards exchange, and many different activities which I will tell you later. What else? What else can I do to motivate my students and help them develop core competencies? Of course, gamification. online gaming like Kahoot, quizzes, and others. Students really very like this. And they first of all take this like a game, but for an educator it is first of all a way to check their knowledge and to develop different competencies, right? So not effective but also fun lessons, or maybe vice versa, not fun but very effective lessons. Okay, very, very, very interesting and effective forms of lessons are provided by Microsoft Global Education Community, and Skype sessions became already like a good tradition in my classroom. There are different forms of connecting through Skype, like mystery Skype or a guest speaker and so on, or virtual excursion and so on. And one of them, you can see this slide, and you can see a guest speaker session. And this is provided by experts in different fields who kindly tell us about their job. And it is so interesting to hear it, not just from a textbook or from a video on YouTube, but from the first hand, if we can say so, right? And my students have an opportunity to ask different questions, and they build their vocabulary and they overcome the fear to speak, because okay, we have now a motivation, but what else do we need? Because, you know, I have a lot of students who read excellently, who write very good, very well, but when the turn comes to the speaking, oh, this is where problems start, because the fear to speak is always interrupting. So Microsoft lessons are a very good way to overcome the language barrier, to overcome the fear to speak. And you see another expert who told my students about sharks, their life, and how can we protect marine animals, marine life, and so on, endangered animals, and so on. Yes, of course, we can't escape talking about teaching SDGs, and the lessons I'm talking you about are showing how I can provide learning SDGs through global projects. Another form of communicating globally and developing hard and soft skills is pen paling and cards exchange, letters exchange, or cultural box exchange. This is how my students gain more and more friends around the world. They get interested in learning English because they understand now clearly that learning English and speaking English and writing English is the only way to communicate with their peers around the world. Yes, cultural box exchange. You see how interested they are. This is a platform which provides me collaborative research and learning again with peers around the world, and my students learn different topics and gain new knowledge about the world on such relevant topics like protecting environment, digital citizenship, and also very interesting topics like cultural Latina, culture of France, explorers and adventures, the world through my eyes, schools around the world, race in America, virtual trip to America, and so on. If you have additional questions about this platform, I can provide you with more details later. I will leave my contacts. Oh, again, Skype sessions, how can we do without them? This is a good way to share our culture. And you know, this is not just, you know, sometimes we don't different details from our own cultures, right? And participating in this kind of meetings, we not only learn different traditions, customs from other countries, but we discover also some details about our own culture, and this is really awesome. Yes, learning, communicating, developing skills, competencies, having a lot of fun. This is how you can really motivate your students. So many countries, so many friends, so many teachers and students. By the way, I would like to mention that not only students who are developing competencies, but also teachers do. This slide I included just for mentioning that sharing experiences is very, very important, because you know, I have difficulties at the beginning of my career looking for ways to connect globally. That is why I find it very important to share my expertise to other teachers, to help them find ways to connect globally, to connect their students globally, to involve them in project-based learning, and so on. And at the end, I would like to tell a few words about students' exchange programs. It was a really sensation for our small city, which doesn't have a lot of different sites, beautiful places, or I don't know, famous landmarks like in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, or in other big and major cities of the Russian Federation. We are a small, modest city, but it was really so exciting to have a foreign guest from India who visited our city and our school in the terms of the Global Students Exchange Program. And you see that we were involved in sports competitions, in lessons, in interviews, and it was really very, very exciting. And you know, one more thing about this kind of communication. Yes, of course, we are talking about overcoming language barriers and so on. But one more thing that my students learned to be more confident. They really became more confident, and they feel so proud of this project, of this global project, and the fact that we can host schools from abroad. And one more student exchange with Taiwan, with the capital of Taiwan. Again, we visited the school our sister school, and students were engaged in a lot of different activities. And in this slide, you can see how they are learning to create hieroglyphics. It was so hard, but fun at the same time. And of course, if you have any additional questions, I'm ready to share my knowledge, to share resources, and to help you to connect your classroom globally. Just so